They called her Falcon, sharp and bold, a girl the world refused to hold. Mocked and doubted she would rise, with fearless heart and watchful eyes. Through fire, betrayal, and endless test, she'd soar above the rest. A shadowed past, a future earned. The Falcon flies the world has learned. Asterisk, before we dive into Falcon's incredible journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an inspiring story. Like this one. Now, let's uncover the story of the woman called Falcon. Asterisk, in the small town of Clearwater, Virginia, life moved at a slow, predictable pace. The streets were lined with maple trees, whose leaves turned fiery red in the fall, and the local diner served the same breakfast plates every day without fail. People knew each other by name, and gossip traveled faster than the wind. But in this quiet town, a storm was brewing, embodied in a young woman the locals had nicknamed Falcon. Her real name was Emily Harper, but the nickname had stuck after her childhood habit of perching on rooftops and observing the world with sharp, calculating eyes, as though she were a bird of prey. Emily wasn't like the other kids. While they played games or whispered behind their hands, she trained herself in sports, strategy games, and self-defense. She carried a quiet intensity that made others uncomfortable. Adults in town admired her drive, but kids, especially the boys in high school, mocked her, calling her weird, too serious, or worse. Emily had always been strong emotionally. Her father, a retired Navy officer, had taught her the value of discipline and resilience. Her mother had passed away when Emily was 12, leaving a quiet void that she filled with purpose and determination. You can't control the world, her father told her often, but you can control how you face it. Emily took those words to heart, and she lived by them every single day. At 17, Emily was already showing signs of exceptional courage. One afternoon, a group of older teens cornered a younger boy behind the high school gym. They pushed him around, sneering, thinking they were untouchable. Emily didn't hesitate. She stepped in, her eyes sharp, her voice calm but firm. "Leave him alone," the teens laughed. "What's a girl like you gonna do?" one of them taunted, but Emily didn't flinch. With practiced moves she had learned in self-defense classes, she disarmed one boy, held him at bay, and forced the group to retreat. The younger boy ran off, grateful but shaken, and Emily stood there, chest heaving, feeling a mix of triumph and isolation. It wasn't the last time she would be underestimated. Her reputation grew first in school, then around town. People whispered that she was fearless, that she had a spirit bigger than the town itself. But she also learned early on that courage often invited scorn. At football games, she'd be mocked for sitting in the front row alone, studying players' tactics and noting weaknesses. At the diner, whispers followed her when she walked past. Groups of men who underestimated her. Emily's life changed the day a recruiter from the Navy, SEALs, came to Clearwater High. The man spoke about opportunity, adventure, and the chance to serve her country. The boys laughed. "SEALs? That's for guys, not a girl like you." Emily, however, felt a spark ignite inside her. She approached the recruiter after the assembly. "I want to apply," she said simply. The recruiter, trying to be polite, hesitated. "Young lady, SEAL training is extreme. Only the strongest survive." Emily smiled, her eyes steady. "I can survive." Her determination surprised the recruiter, but he noted her name and told her to start physical and mental training immediately. That night, Emily stood on her rooftop, the wind brushing her face, looking out over the town that had mocked her, and underestimating eyes that would soon see her strength. She tightened her fists and whispered to herself, "They'll learn why they call me Falcon." But the path ahead would not be easy. Training would push her body to its limits. challenge her mind in ways she had never imagined, and test the very core of who she was. She would face ridicule, isolation, and moments of despair. But in every challenge, Emily found clarity. Every insult, every doubt, fueled her determination to prove herself, not just to the SEALs, but to herself and the world that had written her off. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned amber, Emily made a silent promise. She would not just survive. She would soar. Emily Harper's arrival at the SEAL training base was nothing like Clearwater. Gone were the quiet streets, the familiar maple trees, and the whispering townsfolk. Instead, she stepped into a world of concrete, steel, and relentless discipline, a place where every second tested mind and body. The air was thick with the scent of sweat, salt, and determination, and the sharp calls of instructors cut through it like knives. From the first day, Emily felt the weight of being underestimated. Her classmates, mostly men who had spent years in physical training programs, looked at her skeptically. Some smirked openly. "You sure you're in the right place?" One burly trainee asked, his voice dripping with doubt. "This isn't cheerleading." Emily kept her eyes forward, her jaw tight, and her focus absolute. Every step she took, every movement she made, was deliberate. She refused to let their doubts become her own. Instructors noticed her resolve almost immediately. She wasn't the fastest or the strongest on day one, but she had an edge they couldn't teach, the kind of quiet, unwavering determination that only comes from surviving hardship and heartbreak. Training quickly became a crucible. Each day started before dawn with long runs in wet, freezing air. Obstacle courses tested upper body strength, endurance, and mental tenacity. Emily's muscles screamed in pain, her lungs burned with exertion, and her body begged her to stop. But she pushed through. She remembered her father's words, her mother's absence, the ridicule of her hometown, and each memory became fuel. The first major test came during Hell Week, a notorious period of sleep deprivation, grueling physical challenges, and psychological stress designed to break trainees. Emily's peers doubted her ability to last even one day. On the first night, she was paired with a partner who sneered, "Don't slow me down, rookie." But when obstacles came, Emily carried more than her weight, sometimes literally helping him over walls he couldn't climb, sometimes finding creative solutions others overlooked. She didn't shout or boast. She let her actions speak. Slowly, grudging respect began to replace skepticism. A quiet bond formed with a few other trainees who realized she wasn't just surviving. She was excelling under pressure, but the mental challenges were even tougher than the physical ones. Trainees were forced to confront fear, isolation, and the sense of helplessness. During one exercise, Emily was submerged in icy water for what felt like hours, her body numb, her mind screaming for release. Panic tried to take over, but she calmed herself, focusing on breathing, timing, and control. When she finally emerged, exhausted and shivering, she realized she had not only survived, she had mastered herself in a way few could. Even so, prejudice persisted. Some instructors openly doubted her ability to complete the program. One evening, after a grueling day of endurance drills, an instructor barked, "Falcon, you're holding the group back. Maybe you're in over your head." Emily's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "I may not be the strongest yet," she said, her voice calm, "but I won't give up. I won't let you or anyone decide my limits for me." Her refusal to break, even in the face of disdain, began to shift the culture around her. Fellow trainees started noticing her courage under fire. Small victories helping teammates through exhaustion, navigating obstacles others failed, maintaining focus when others cracked earned her respect, even from those who had mocked her. But the true test came during a simulated hostage rescue. Trainees were split into teams, tasked with infiltrating a mock facility to extract hostages. Emily's team faltered, facing unexpected resistance. Panic and frustration spread among the men, but Emily stayed calm, analyzing the situation. With clear commands, she coordinated a strategy that avoided traps and ensured the hostages were safe. When the simulation ended, instructors nodded in approval, impressed by her leadership under pressure. That night, as Emily lay on the hard cot, her body screaming for rest, she reflected on how far she had come. Every insult, every doubt, every challenge she had faced in Clearwater seemed like preparation for this very moment. She understood now that strength wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional, and relentless. The nickname Falcon began to mean more than a childhood quirk. Among her peers, it became a symbol of sharp focus, aerial perspective, and unyielding determination. Emily had earned it not through words, but through action, through the courage to face impossible odds and refuse to be diminished. Yet the path ahead promised more trials. The SEALs didn't just test strength and skill. They tested loyalty, integrity, and sacrifice. Emily would soon face moments where success meant risking everything, where her courage would be the only thing standing between failure and triumph. But as the sun rose over the base the next morning, Emily stood at the edge of the training field, looking out at the horizon. Her body ached, her spirit had been tested, and the doubts of her past still lingered in shadow. But she felt a growing certainty. She was no longer the girl who had been mocked in Clearwater. She was Falcon-focused, fierce and ready to face whatever came next. By the time Emily Harper had reached the midpoint of her SEAL training, the routine of physical exertion and mental pressure had become a constant storm. Every day blurred into the next. Long swims in frigid water, endless runs across sand and mud, hours of strategy drills and exercises designed to break the will of anyone not utterly committed. Yet Emily had begun to embrace the rhythm. Each obstacle wasn't just a test of strength, it was a measure of resolve. The next trial was one that had earned a reputation, even among the most hardened trainees. The combat simulation exercise, a week-long mission designed to mimic real-world scenarios where lives hung in the balance. It wasn't simply about fitness or endurance. It was about strategy, adaptability, and leadership under pressure. Teams were dropped into unfamiliar terrain, tasked with gathering intelligence, neutralizing threats, and rescuing hostages. Emily's team was a mix of seasoned trainees and a few rookies, many of whom still doubted her ability to lead. One man, Jackson, who had been openly skeptical of her abilities from day one, muttered during briefing, "Great, a girl's in charge now. What could go wrong?" Emily caught his gaze, but didn't reply. Words had no power here, only actions. Mattered. The team parachuted into the mock conflict zone in the dead of night. Emily led with precision, her eyes scanning the landscape like a falcon searching for prey. Every step, every whisper of sound, every shadow was analyzed and catalogued. In her mind, when they encountered their first obstacle, a minefield, they halted. Most trainees froze in panic, but Emily quickly assessed the safest path and guided the team through without injury. The real challenge came during the simulated ambush. Enemy operatives, represented by instructors in full tactical gear, opened fire. Chaos erupted. Trainees shouted, vehicles rattled, and explosions echoed across the terrain. Many of her teammates faltered under pressure, hesitation freezing them in place. Emily didn't. She sprinted into the fray, coordinating cover fire, signaling teammates to move, and maintaining focus under fire. Jackson stumbled, tripping over debris, and froze as the simulated enemy closed in. Emily was at his side in seconds, dragging him to safety, then quickly returning to her post. "Keep moving," she instructed calmly. "We finish this together." Her confidence, her calm under fire, inspired the teen to rally. As the hours dragged on, exhaustion set in. Sleep deprivation and hunger clouded judgment, and minor mistakes could have ended the mission. During a critical moment, Emily had to make a split-second decision. One route led directly to the hostages, but was heavily guarded. Another was safer, but risked alerting enemy forces. She chose the risky path, trusting her instincts and the team's ability to execute under pressure. The decision paid off. The hostages were rescued, the mission marked a success, and Emily's leadership was recognized by instructors. She had proven herself not just physically capable, but strategically and emotionally reliable. A true SEAL in the making. Yet, despite this triumph, Emily couldn't shake a gnawing unease. That unease grew the following day. During a debriefing, Jackson, the same man she had saved, approached her privately. "Don't think I won't call you out when it matters," he said, voice low. "You got lucky yesterday. One slip, and—" Emily listened, her heart steady, though she felt a flicker of frustration. It wasn't just luck. It was preparation, focus, and trust in the team. "Luck has nothing to do with it," she said calmly. "Preparation does. And I'll never let the team down because I'm ready." Even as Emily's confidence grew, she faced internal challenges. The mental strain of constant vigilance, the physical toll on her body, and the weight of proving herself in a male-dominated environment sometimes left her isolated. Late nights were spent alone, reviewing maps, running simulations, and running through strategies over and over in her mind. She missed Clearwater at times, the quiet streets, the familiar diner. Even the subtle judgment of her peers felt simpler than the world she had entered. Yet, amidst the trials, bonds formed. Trainees who had mocked her began to see her differently. A quiet respect replaced laughter. A sense of camaraderie emerged where skepticism had once ruled. They began calling her Falcon, not just for her childhood reputation, but because of her ability to see situations from above, to anticipate threats, and to act decisively. The true test of trust and courage came at the end of the exercise. The team faced a final scenario. They were ambushed, separated, and tasked with regrouping and completing the mission under extreme stress. Emily was injured during the simulated firefight, a sharp pain in her shoulder threatening to slow her down. Her body screamed for rest, but she pushed forward, guiding her team through darkness and confusion. Refusing to abandon anyone. By the time the mission concluded, Emily was exhausted, bruised, and battered, but triumphant. Her leadership had turned what could have been a disastrous outcome into a clear success. Instructors nodded with approval, and even the skeptical trainees acknowledged her abilities. Jackson, begrudgingly, gave her a nod of respect, a silent acknowledgement of her courage. That night, Emily sat alone by a small fire, staring at the stars. She thought of her father, who had always told her strength came from within, and her mother, whose memory pushed her forward. She realized that every insult, every doubt, every moment of isolation had prepared her for this. Falcon was no longer just a nickname. It was her identity, forged in fire and perseverance. And yet, Emily knew this was only the beginning. Real missions awaited, challenges that would test not just her skill and courage, but her moral judgment and capacity for sacrifice. The road to becoming a true SEAL was long and unforgiving, and Emily was determined to meet it head-on. She had survived ridicule, mastered her fears, and earned respect, but the world beyond the training base would demand even more. Emily Harper had learned many lessons during her SEAL training: the value of endurance, the strength of preparation, and the importance of focus under pressure. But nothing had prepared her for the sting of betrayal. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly. Emily had been paired with a new team for a multi-day field operation, designed to simulate a high-risk reconnaissance mission. This time, the stakes were higher. The exercise included live-fire simulations, rapid response scenarios, and the need for split-second decision-making that could determine the lives of hostages in the exercise. Her teammates were skilled, but a few carried arrogance that masked insecurity. Jackson was still in the mix, his earlier grudging respect replaced with a subtle competitiveness. At first, Emily had hoped this would push them all to perform better, but soon she realized someone was undermining the mission. Supplies went missing, critical intel was miscommunicated, and one night a map she had carefully marked vanished. Emily felt the frustration boiling inside her, but she knew losing her temper wouldn't solve anything. She carefully observed her teammates, noticing subtle glances, whispered conversations, and deliberate missteps. The realization hit her hard. Someone was trying to sabotage her. The next day's mission confirmed it. During a critical exercise in dense woodland, Emily's team was tasked with securing a simulated high-value target. As they approached the location, a teammate, someone she had begun to trust, took an alternate route, leaving Emily and the rest of the team exposed to enemy fire. The simulation quickly became chaotic, and her carefully laid plans unraveled. Emily's heart pounded, but her mind remained sharp. She quickly assessed the situation, reorganized the team, and adapted to the new threats. By the end of the exercise, they had succeeded, but only barely. Emily knew that if this had been a real mission, lives could have been lost. Later, during debriefing, Emily confronted the team member quietly. "I don't know why you did that," she said calmly, "but you put everyone at risk." The trainee stammered, offering excuses, but Emily wasn't interested in words. She needed accountability. The instructors intervened, noting the deliberate interference, and the saboteur was disciplined. Still, the betrayal left a mark. That night, Emily found herself alone in the base's training yard, staring at the dark sky. Her body was weary from physical exertion, but her mind wrestled with a different kind of fatigue, the exhaustion of trust broken. She realized that courage wasn't just about facing external threats. It was about confronting deceit, navigating betrayal, and maintaining moral clarity when others faltered. The following week brought another test. A mission simulating a hostage extraction in an urban environment. This scenario pushed Emily to her limits physically, mentally, and emotionally. Buildings were dark and maze-like. Civilians played by volunteers were scattered throughout, and every corner held potential enemy threats. Emily had to coordinate her team carefully, balancing speed with caution. During the operation, a teammate panicked, firing prematurely and injuring 2 hostages in the simulation. Emily reacted instantly, taking control, administering aid, and redirecting the team to secure the remaining hostages. Instructors watched closely, noting her ability to maintain composure under extreme pressure. At the end of the exercise, Emily was praised for her leadership, but she felt a hollow satisfaction. Success in these simulations was one thing. Earning the trust of others, preventing harm caused by human error, and maintaining integrity under stress was another. She understood that the path she had chosen was not just about strength or skill. It was about character, judgment, and sacrifice. That same evening, Emily received a call from Clearwater. Her father's voice was tight, worried. Her younger brother had been injured in a car accident. Emily felt a surge of helplessness. She wanted to be there immediately to support her family, but SEAL training had rules. Leaving the base mid-training was virtually impossible, and every decision carried consequences. Emily sat alone in her bunk, wrestling with the tension between duty and personal responsibility. Her instincts screamed to go home, but she knew abandoning her training could jeopardize everything she had worked for. Instead, she wrote a letter to her family, poured every ounce of love and concern into it, and promised herself that she would return as soon as she could. She stayed, channeling her worry into focus, using the emotional weight to fuel her performance. Weeks that followed were grueling. Emily's body was pushed to extremes. Her mind teetered on exhaustion, and yet she persisted. Her determination inspired others around her. Trainees, who had once doubted her, now looked to her for guidance and courage. Instructors began to acknowledge that Emily's resilience was exceptional, not just for a woman, but among all trainees. One night, after a long day of drills, Emily walked along the perimeter of the base. The moonlight glinted off the water in the nearby river, and the gentle breeze reminded her of Clearwater's quiet streets. She realized that every challenge, every betrayal, every moment of doubt had forged her into something stronger. She wasn't just surviving the SEAL program, she was shaping herself into the kind of person who could face any mission, any adversity, and maintain her integrity. By the end of Part 4, Emily Harper had endured betrayal, faced personal loss, and discovered the depth of her emotional strength. She had learned that courage was as much about moral clarity and resilience as it was about physical skill. And though the road ahead remained perilous, Falcon had grown more unshakable, ready to face the challenges that awaited beyond the training base. The air was heavy with tension the morning Emily Harper reported for her next assignment. This mission simulation would be the most complex yet. An amphibious insertion followed by urban reconnaissance and a simulated hostage extraction under leave fire conditions. Every trainee knew that failure here could mean falling behind, being singled out, or worse, having all prior achievements overshadowed. Emily's body ached from weeks of grueling exercises, yet her mind was razor sharp. She had learned the hard lessons of betrayal, the agony of watching trust break, and the necessity of maintaining moral clarity in moments of extreme stress. Now, all of it would be put to the ultimate test. Her team assembled on the shore at dawn. The waves crashed against the rocks, and the cold spray bit had exposed the skin. Jackson, who had vacillated between doubt and grudging respect, avoided eye contact but stood silently beside her. Emily gave a nod, not as a command, but as acknowledgement. We stick together. We succeed together. The team launched from the boats into churning water, struggling against strong currents as they approached the enemy shoreline. Emily kept her focus, tracking every wave, every shadow, every sound. She coordinated the movements, ensuring that each teammate knew where to go and how to respond. Even Jackson, whose confidence wavered at times, followed her lead without hesitation. Once ashore, the urban portion of the exercise began. Buildings loomed above them, darkened and maze-like, and the team moved cautiously, clearing rooms and securing perimeters. The simulated hostages were strategically placed to test judgment and reaction under stress. Emily's earlier lessons in leadership, trust, and adaptability came to the forefront. During one tense sequence, a teammate panicked and fired prematurely, striking a hostage. Emily's heart raced, but she didn't allow panic to take hold. She administered immediate care, redirected the team, and maintained clear, decisive instructions. Every step she took demonstrated not only skill but compassion under pressure qualities. Instructors emphasized, but few displayed consistently. The mission reached its climax in a heavily fortified building. Emily spotted a narrow route that allowed stealthy entry, but it required risk. Most trainees hesitated, but she made a rapid decision, guiding her team through. One by one, they navigated the traps and secured the hostages. Her decisiveness turned potential failure into resounding success. When the simulation ended, Emily's instructors called her aside. "You've shown not just skill, but leadership that's rare in any trainee," one said. "You've turned adversity into strength, and that's what sets you apart." Emily felt a rush of quiet pride. She wasn't seeking approval, yet it mattered. The recognition of her abilities validated the long hours, the pain, and the sacrifices she had endured. Even Jackson approached her later, this time without sarcasm or doubt. "Falcon," he said, quietly, the nickname carrying respect now. "You led us through that. I don't know how you do it, but you've earned this." Emily nodded, acknowledging the moment without need for words. She had earned not just respect but trust, something far more meaningful. Yet, this success wasn't without personal reflection. That night, Emily sat alone by the riverbank, staring at the moon's reflection on the rippling water. She thought of Clearwater, of her father's guidance, of her mother's absence, and of the mocking voices that had once belittled her. Every obstacle she had faced, every slight endured, had shaped her. They had prepared her for moments like today, that her thoughts wandered to what lay ahead. SEAL training wasn't just about simulations. It was about preparation for real missions where the stakes weren't hypothetical. Lives would depend on judgment, courage, and moral clarity. Emily Harper understood that fully now. She wasn't just a survivor of challenges. She was a leader capable of guiding others through life-and-death situations. By the end of the week, Emily had transformed from a trainee fighting to prove herself into a respected member of her unit. Her peers turned to her for guidance. Her instructors acknowledged her exceptional skills, and even those who had doubted her from the start now recognized her as someone formidable, disciplined, and uncompromising in her moral compass. And yet, beneath the accolades and recognition, Emily felt a quiet resolve growing within her, a sense that the real test was yet to come. Her journey had been about proving herself, earning respect, and overcoming betrayal. The next stage would be about justice, sacrifice, and facing consequences far beyond the safety of simulations. Emily Harper, the woman called Falcon, had not just survived adversity, she had risen above it. She had turned doubt into determination, betrayal into clarity, and fear into focused courage. And as she stared across the calm waters under the moonlight, she knew one truth clearly. She was ready for whatever came next. No matter how daunting the months following Emily, Harper's exceptional performance in the last mission simulation were marked by rigorous, unrelenting preparation. She had earned the respect of her instructors, her teammates, and even those who had once doubted her. Yet, a sense of anticipation lingered in her mind, as if the final test, the one that would define her, was still waiting. It came unexpectedly one morning, with a briefing that changed everything. The instructors announced a high-level, realistic exercise designed to simulate a real-world hostage rescue in hostile territory. Unlike prior drills, this one included live fire, night operations, and multiple contingencies, requiring not just tactical skill, but absolute moral clarity under extreme pressure. Emily's team was assigned to infiltrate a facility representing a hostile stronghold. Intel suggested that the hostages were spread across multiple buildings, with enemy operatives stationed at every corner. Failure wasn't an option. Every decision had consequences. As they approached the facility under cover of darkness, Emily's heart remained steady, her mind sharp. She had learned the value of patience, observation, and decisiveness. Every move was calculated, every instruction precise. The team relied on her implicitly, trusting her judgment completely. The first obstacle came swiftly. An alarm had been tripped, and enemy operatives were alerted. Emily assessed the situation instantly and made a split-second decision, directing her team to alternate entry points while keeping communication lines open. The team followed her commands, maneuvering through the compound with synchronized precision. During the operation, Jackson found himself trapped in a building with simulated enemy forces. Panic rose in his eyes, but Emily acted without hesitation. She led a diversion, drew the opponents away, and extracted him safely, demonstrating the courage and leadership that had become her signature. As they reached the hostages, Emily faced the moral choice that would define her journey. One path offered rapid extraction, but put a hostage at high risk. The other was slower, more dangerous, but ensured the safety of everyone. Without hesitation, Emily chose the slower, safer route. Her decision delayed the operation, but preserved lives. The instructors watching from afar nodded in approval. This was the demonstration of leadership tempered with humanity. Finally, the team regrouped, completing the exercise successfully. Exhausted, battered, yet victorious, they returned to base as the first rays of dawn painted the sky. For Emily, the satisfaction was profound, not merely for the mission's success, but for the culmination of years of struggle, resilience, and growth. In the debriefing room, the instructors praised her decisiveness, courage, and moral clarity. "Falcon," one said, "you've demonstrated everything a SEAL must be: strength, intelligence, adaptability, and integrity. You've earned this." For the first time, Emily allowed herself a quiet, deep smile. She had not only survived every trial, but had transcended them. Even Jackson approached, no trace of doubt left in his eyes. "You earned that name," he said simply. "Falcon, it fits." Emily nodded, understanding that the nickname that had once been a childhood quip had become a symbol of her journey of resilience, insight, courage, and leadership. Later that day, Emily stood alone on the base's overlook, gazing at the horizon. The wind tugged at her hair, the same way it had when she perched on rooftops in Clearwater years ago. She thought of every insult, every moment of doubt, every trial and betrayal. Each had been a step toward this moment. She realized that her strength had never been about proving others wrong. It had been about proving herself right, about honoring her capacity to endure, lead, and act with integrity under any circumstance. Her journey was complete, yet it also marked a beginning. She had faced the harshest tests, earned respect, and transformed into someone who could confront any challenge with courage, clarity, and moral conviction. The town that had once mocked her, the instructors who had doubted her, and even the peers who had challenged her, all had witnessed the flight of the Falcon as Emily turned to walk back toward the base. The sun fully rose, casting long golden rays across the training ground. For the first time, she felt the full weight of accomplishment, not arrogance, not pride and triumph over others, but a quiet, unshakable satisfaction. She had earned her place, her name, and the respect that had been withheld from her for so long. Emily Harper, the woman called Falcon, had soared,